Well, in 2005, an Israeli archaeologist announced to the world that she had uncovered the ruins of King David's palace in Jerusalem.
For centuries, the final resting place of King Solomon has remained one of history's most enduring mysteries, drawing the curiosity of scholars, explorers, and believers alike. Beneath the ancient landscape of Jerusalem, where layers of time conceal countless untold stories, a recent discovery has reignited global intrigue. What was once dismissed as speculation now feels closer to reality than ever before. But this isn't just about confirming whether a site truly belongs to Solomon. The real shock lies in what may have been uncovered there, something so significant that it challenges long-held beliefs across history, science, and religion. In biblical tradition, Solomon is remembered as a king of unmatched wisdom and immense wealth. He was the ruler who built the first temple around 950 BC, a sacred structure believed to have housed the Ark of the Covenant, the spiritual heart of ancient Israel. Now imagine if something else, something deliberately hidden, was buried alongside him. Why would it need to be concealed? And how could such a secret remain hidden for thousands of years? Before this story fades back into the shadows of time, stay with us, because what's emerging from beneath Jerusalem could reshape how we see the past. For generations, Solomon's tomb was widely considered a myth. Many historians doubted it ever existed, but everything began to shift when references to a long-forgotten underground passage beneath Jerusalem resurfaced. Suddenly, the mystery had a new direction. For years, excavations in the region continued, driven by the hope of finding a king said to have been buried with extraordinary wealth and honor. Solomon wasn't just a ruler, he was a symbol of power, intelligence, and prosperity. Taking the throne at a young age after his father, King David, he transformed his kingdom into a thriving center of trade and culture. Under his rule, Jerusalem flourished. Precious materials flowed in from distant lands. The construction of the first temple itself was a marvel, built over 7 years using cedar from Lebanon, adorned with gold, and crafted with such precision that the stones fit together seamlessly. His wisdom became legendary. One famous story tells of 2 women claiming the same child. Solomon proposed dividing the child in 2, not out of cruelty, but to reveal the truth. The real mother, willing to give up her child to save its life, exposed herself through compassion. That moment defined Solomon's legacy as a just and wise king. His reputation spread far beyond his kingdom. Even the Queen of Sheba traveled great distances to meet him, bringing gifts and questions. Yet after witnessing his wisdom firsthand, she admitted that the reality far exceeded the stories she had heard. Solomon's influence reached across seas and continents. Ancient texts mention distant lands like Ophir and Tarshish, places still debated by historians today. Some believe they were in Africa, others suggest connections to India. From these journeys came gold, ivory, and rare treasures that elevated his kingdom to unmatched wealth. Even the copper mines of the Timna Valley are often linked to his era, believed to have contributed significantly to his economic power. Archaeologists continue to investigate these sites, searching for clues that connect them to Solomon's reign. Yet despite all this, one question has never been answered. Where was he buried? To this day, no confirmed tomb has been found, no inscriptions, no royal burial site. Some theories place it beneath the Temple Mount. Others suggest a hidden cave, intentionally sealed to protect its secrets. Over time, repeated failures led many to abandon the search altogether, labeling it an unsolved mystery. But the story didn't end. It was only waiting for the right moment to resurface. Then came a breakthrough. Whether by chance or careful investigation, something was uncovered that reignited the search. What emerged wasn't just a tomb. It was a clue, buried in silence for nearly 3,000 years, as if history itself had been waiting to speak. And what lay inside? That's where the real story begins. For generations, the hunt for Solomon's tomb has felt like chasing something just beyond reach. From medieval excavations beneath sacred ground to determined explorers in the 19th century searching the Judean hills, every effort led to the same outcome: nothing. Until now. Fragments of hardened material had been uncovered, and over time, two clear viewpoints began to form. One group insisted that Solomon's tomb was nothing more than a myth. The other believed the failure to find it came down to flawed maps, missing records, or sheer misfortune. By the time the 21st century arrived, most experts had nearly abandoned the search altogether. Then everything shifted. Not long ago, an archaeologist named Dr. Emily Carter, better known for her careful study of ancient manuscripts than for dramatic field discoveries, was examining old documents in the Jerusalem archives. That's when she noticed something others had missed: ancient tax records dating back to Solomon's era. Buried within those Hebrew texts was a subtle but powerful clue. Payments were being directed to a location that didn't exist in any official records. The reference pointed to an area near the city of David, a place already rich with history, yet somehow still hiding secrets. The city of David is known for revealing pieces of the past with nearly every excavation. That made it the perfect place for Carter and her team to begin. Using ground-penetrating radar, they focused on a steep hillside in the Silwan region. But progress was slow. The terrain was unforgiving: sharp limestone, unstable soil, and the sensitivity of the area forced them to stop and restart repeatedly. Then nature intervened. A sudden downpour loosened the earth, creating a small dip in the hillside. At first, it looked like nothing, but something about it felt different. When the team scanned the area again, the radar lit up, pulsing rapidly, almost like a heartbeat. Beneath the surface, a network of tunnels appeared. These weren't natural formations. They were carved deliberately into solid rock, about 13 meters below ground. At that moment, it became clear. This wasn't just another theory. This was something real, something hidden with intent. A quiet tension settled over the team, excitement mixed with caution. This was no longer a routine dig. It was something far more significant. Securing the site became the priority. The tunnels were incredibly complex, filled with misleading paths, false entrances, and deceptive turns. One wrong move could trigger a collapse, burying both the structure and the secrets it held for centuries. Night after night, Dr. Carter studied fragments of ancient inscriptions. These markings didn't provide clear answers. They were designed to confuse, to mislead anyone trying to break in. But when pieced together, they hinted at something unusual: a door that couldn't be seen, yet was undeniably there. This wasn't a dramatic trap. It was something quieter, more calculated, a hidden defense system, crafted with precision and intelligence, blending seamlessly into its surroundings. And what had been uncovered so far? Just a fraction of the whole, less than 25%. Most of the structure still lay buried beneath the earth, waiting. But the real breakthrough came from somewhere unexpected: an old shepherd's tale. Passed down through generations, it spoke of a mountain that shimmered under moonlight, of a wall that looked like stars from a distance. It sounded like folklore until Carter stood on that very hillside. The ground was damp, her boots sinking slightly with each step. Yet the silence felt different. The stillness of the rocks, their unyielding presence, it was as if they were guarding something. In that moment, she knew. They were close. Beyond that sealed passage, behind a doorway untouched for thousands of years, something was waiting. And what happened next changed everything. This week, archaeologists came closer than ever to uncovering the resting place of a king long lost to history. Picture it, a single slab of stone standing between the modern world and a secret buried for 3,000 years. A slab that may never have been meant to move. When it finally shifted, it didn't happen quietly. It felt as though something ancient had just awakened. After weeks of battling dust, rock, and uncertainty, Dr. Carter and her team had followed every lead, from forgotten records to this hidden slope in Silwan. Now they stood before the massive stone, buried so deep it seemed the earth itself had tried to hide it forever. But this wasn't just a barrier, it was a warning, a puzzle. Removing it required more than strength, it demanded understanding. The tunnels around it were filled with traps, dead ends, unstable sections, and passages designed to collapse if disturbed incorrectly. The tools may have been ancient, but the strategy behind them was brilliant. Whoever designed this had anticipated intruders and planned for them. As the ground trembled faintly beneath their feet, Dr. Carter leaned closer to the markings carved near the entrance. Ancient Hebrew symbols, arranged in a specific order, 7 lines, 7 symbols, and a pattern that clearly meant something. The markings seemed to align with something deeper, 7 distinct symbols that appeared to mirror the 7 years it took to construct the first temple. They hinted at the temple itself, the rebuilding of Jerusalem, and even suggested something about the future. These weren't random carvings or decoration. They were intentional. They were clues. Carefully, the team brought out advanced tools, laser instruments, and 3D scanners, and began recording every inch of the structure. Every groove, every symbol, every tiny imperfection was mapped with extreme precision. The atmosphere grew intense, almost suffocating. One wrong move could risk everything. For 3 straight days, they worked in silence, adjusting mechanisms, aligning hidden components, pausing every time the massive stone shifted even slightly. The deeper they moved, the quieter it became. It felt as though the mountain itself was watching, waiting. And then, it happened. A deep rumble echoed through the tunnel. Dust trickled down from above. Slowly, almost reluctantly, the stone slab began to shift. Not wide open, but just enough to create a narrow crack leading into darkness. The team stepped back instinctively, eyes fixed on the opening. No sound came from within. No wind rushed out. Just a faint cool air. And an overwhelming silence. Following strict archaeological protocols, they documented everything on camera. They all understood. This wasn't just an excavation anymore. This was history, unfolding in real time. Dr. Emily Carter raised her hand gently, signaling complete silence. Instantly, the group froze. No one moved. No one spoke. In that moment, they all realized they weren't at the end of a mystery. They were at the beginning of one. What lay beyond that darkness was still unknown. But one thing was certain. Whatever secrets this place held, they wouldn't reveal themselves all at once. And what came next might challenge even the strongest skeptics. Then suddenly, a beam of light cut through the darkness. A flashlight landed on something reflective, and everything stopped. No one spoke. Breathing itself felt heavy, because in that instant, The truth became undeniable. They were no longer chasing myths or legends. They were standing beneath the city of David, inside a sealed chamber, untouched for thousands of years. The team huddled closer, their hands slightly shaking as they held their lights steady. What lay before them wasn't a story anymore. It was real. Carefully arranged across the chamber were objects, treasures, placed with purpose, almost as if waiting to be discovered. Along the walls stood golden vessels, each engraved with ancient Hebrew inscriptions. Their shine was so pristine, it looked as though they had been polished just yesterday. The air carried a strange, lingering scent, earthy yet sweet, a blend of spices and resins that felt both ancient and fresh at the same time. In one corner stood a seven-branched menorah, rising solidly from the ground. Its craftsmanship matched descriptions from the first temple perfectly. This wasn't a replica. This could have been the real thing. And yet, this was only the beginning. Everywhere they looked, new stories emerged. There were fragments of silk, worn but still recognizable, suggesting trade routes that may have stretched as far as India. Intricately carved ivory hinted at connections with distant African regions. Small boxes of jewelry lay nearby, some still sealed. Inside were glimpses of earrings and necklaces adorned with emeralds, rubies, and lapis lazuli. This chamber wasn't just holding wealth, it was telling the story of an entire world. One archaeologist, overwhelmed, could barely whisper that even the finest museums in existence couldn't compare to what they were seeing. But then came the moment no one expected. A sealed clay jar cracked open slightly. Instantly, a fragrance filled the chamber. Saffron, frankincense, with a faint citrus note. The scent was unbelievably fresh, as if time itself had been paused. The team stood in disbelief. How could something survive like this for thousands of years? It felt deliberate, preserved, protected, and yet not everything made sense. Some artifacts carried markings the team couldn't recognize. Certain designs didn't match any known style, neither fully ancient nor clearly tied to a specific era. That sparked both excitement and unease. Questions began to surface. Could these objects belong to a later period? Perhaps the reign of Solomon's son, Rehoboam? Or had someone hidden this wealth later, building a legend around it? Standing in that chamber, surrounded by history and mystery, the team couldn't ignore the growing suspicion. Because if this was only the beginning, then what lay deeper inside might change everything. Every artifact, every gem, every carving seemed to carry meaning. When viewed together, they formed a picture that echoed descriptions found in ancient writings, and yet something felt incomplete. This didn't feel like the final discovery. It felt like the opening chapter of something far greater. Because of that, the team moved with extreme caution. Advanced scanners captured every surface in detail. Nothing was touched without full documentation. Everyone understood the stakes. One careless move could destroy history that had survived for thousands of years. Even a single menorah could reshape what we know about the first temple. But despite the incredible finds, there was no celebration. They hadn't come searching for treasure. They were looking for a tomb, and this chamber didn't feel like one. Still, there was a shared sense among the team. This was only the first layer. Whatever mattered most was hidden deeper, protected for a reason, and the carvings on the walls became the center of attention. The gold was impressive, no doubt, but the symbols raised far more important questions. Under the flickering torchlight, a series of engravings came into view. At the center was a sharply defined, star-shaped seal. Precise, deliberate. It closely resembled the legendary Seal of Solomon, a symbol long associated not just with kingship, but with wisdom and power. That's when things became even more intriguing. The carvings themselves were unlike anything ordinary. Straight lines, spirals, sharp angles, all arranged with incredible precision. It didn't look like decoration, it looked like design, like mathematics. One archaeologist quietly pointed out that these patterns went far beyond standard architectural measurements. Some proportions were so advanced, so intricate, that they seemed out of place for the 10th century BCE. It was as if the past was revealing knowledge far ahead of its time. In one corner, a set of clay tablets lay partially buried, as though left behind intentionally. Their surfaces were etched with Hebrew script, some clear, others worn with age. One tablet matched known temple measurements described in ancient texts, but the other was different. The language shifted. The writing style changed. It didn't read like a record, it felt like a puzzle. It spoke of something resembling a key, not necessarily physical, but possibly tied to hidden knowledge. The team fell silent. Was this simply architectural instruction, or something meant to conceal a deeper truth? Then someone noticed something else. In a shadowed corner of the chamber sat a small box, easy to miss, yet strangely compelling. It was compact, heavy-looking, sealed with metal clasps, and on its surface was the same star-like symbol seen on the walls. There was no visible lock, no clear way to open it. The team gathered around, but no one reached out, because something about it felt dangerous. Questions filled the room. Was this where the real secret lay? Did it point to something even greater, or would it only deepen the mystery? Then, another detail changed everything. Among the carvings was a symbol none of them recognized. It didn't match the others. It felt out of place, almost as if it didn't belong to that time at all. And just like that, the story took a new turn. While still analyzing the strange star engravings, the team made another discovery. Near the eastern wall, faint writing became visible in the dim light, something that had gone unnoticed at first. 5 lines, etched in ancient Hebrew, worn by time, yet still readable. The inscription read, "As the stars guide the way, so may knowledge guide my hand." The chamber fell silent. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone. This didn't feel like a formal religious inscription. It felt personal, almost like a message left behind, perhaps even by Solomon himself. After that, everything accelerated. Back at base camp, activity surged. Photos were taken, notes compiled, and data sent to researchers worldwide. By morning, news of the discovery had spread across the academic community. Some experts were convinced the language, the structure, the location all pointed to the era of Solomon, around the 10th century BCE. But not everyone agreed. Skeptics quickly raised concerns. Some argued the text appeared too refined, too precise. Others believed certain symbols hinted at a later period. A few even suggested it could have been added centuries after Solomon's time. The debate intensified. Online discussions grew heated. Some questioned whether such immense wealth aligned with traditional accounts. Others raised concerns over ownership of the site in Jerusalem, adding a political edge to the situation. Tension was building everywhere. Yet beneath all the noise, one idea began to stand out. Not words, but music. The markings appeared structured, almost like notation for ancient instruments. A system of sound, frozen in stone, waiting to be understood. And just like that, the mystery deepened once again. If you're fascinated by stories where history and mystery collide, make sure to stay tuned, because what comes next might be even more unbelievable.